5-year-old nanny, Danielle Burak, is suing her former employer, Lisa Adams, for 1 month's salary and for the cost of an airline ticket. Danielle claims she was wrongfully terminated.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 276 on the calendar in the matter of Burak versus Adams.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Ms. Burak, you were employed for a period of time as a nanny for the defendant's child. One child?
One child.
And it is your claim that you had a contract. It was an oral contract, and that contract provided that you would give them 30 days' notice of your intention to leave, and they would give you 30 days' notice of their intention to terminate your services. There came a time when you were away on some sort of a vacation, and you claimed that Miss Adams unceremoniously fired you without giving you the requisite 30-day notice. Correct. In addition, you claim that they owe you the plane ticket because if you had not been terminated so abruptly, you would have had a plane ticket to come home from vacation. So that's your case. Ms. Adams says that there was certainly a contract, an oral contract, that provided that you would give them 30-day notice of your intention to leave, but there was no commensurate 30-day provision with regard to them, that they could fire you at will at any time. That's your defense.
Correct.
When did you begin your employment with the Adams family?
I started working for them February 14th of 2005.
How did you find Miss Burak, Miss Adams?
Through a nanny agency.
What was the name of the agency?
I actually don't recall the agency.
It was Elite Domestic Agency.
Could you keep your voice up, please? Hear my voice? Ah! Keep your voice up so I can hear
Agency.
you. What?
Elite Domestic Agency.
February 14th, 2005. And you worked until when, Miss Burak?
Last day I worked was August 11th of 2006. Total of 18 months.
Miss Adams, you have a little boy or a little girl?
Little boy.
How old is he?
He's 2.5 years old.
So he was a little less than a year old.
He was
when Miss Burak came.
Correct.
And she took good care of him?
Yes.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
My husband and I own a design firm at the Pacific Design Center.
So you really relied on her to be the sole custodian of your son while you were at work?
Absolutely.
And this is your only child?
Yes.
Tell me why you fired her.
There were many incidents that led up to the termination. It was definitely a culmination of incidents. The last incident was Danielle going on vacation.
When did she go on vacation?
She went on vacation. The dates changed. So at first she wanted to take off August 11th, 14th, and 15th. On the day of the 10th, she requested to take off the 14th, 15th, and 16th. And that was a pattern with her. She was very notorious for always leaving and not coming back the day she was supposed to come back. So that was not surprising to me that she requested those 3 days. I had to reschedule my meetings, and I said that was fine. The day she was leaving, I said, please, please come back on the 17th. I need you back to work.
Now, the 17th was what day of the week?
Thursday. I said, I have meetings at work. I really need you to be back. And she hugged me and she said, I will be back. In my mind, I thought, I'm sure something is going to come up, whether it's the plane, was delayed, there was something happened, something was going to come up. And indeed, on Tuesday, I got an email saying that she wanted to take Thursday and Friday off and that she would be back to work on Monday. I sent an email saying, and I spoke to my husband and I said, I cannot believe this, but at the same time I could. And I said, I really need you back to work on Thursday. Please come back to work. And she basically then sent me an email saying that she had another person that could come in and fill in for her.
Who did she have to fill in for her?
A friend.
A friend
who is also a
name
nanny. I believe her name is Simone.
Had you ever met her?
I met her once. So I was not comfortable with...
Do you know who she works for?
I do not know the mother. So I really don't know anything about her.
Okay.
And so she said that she wanted to have her fill in. And I said, no, that's not going to work for me. I don't know who she is. I don't feel comfortable having her watch my son without me there at the house. And she sent me an email saying she's very trustworthy and she's my friend. And I said, this is not personal. I don't know who she is. No. And I basically said, again, I needed you back to work on Thursday. So when that avenue closed, she then said, oh, by the way, I didn't get my paycheck on Friday, the Friday prior. And the reason she couldn't come to work was because she didn't have a plane ticket to come back to work. So, just everything going up in the air now. What was the lie? Was the lie that there was an annual event in Santa Fe that prevented her to coming back to work?
I'll find out in a minute.
Okay. There was no lie.
Just to say, I'll find out in a minute.
Sure.
She wanted the extra 2 days because the extra 2 days meant the extra 2 days plus a weekend. Where was the boyfriend?
The fiance was in New Mexico.
With you?
Correct. And
Is
his
that
daughter.
where he lives?
No, he was out in New Mexico for work with his daughter.
Did you travel out there together with him?
No. They drove together separate earlier, and I flew on my own.
When were they coming back?
They were coming back on the following Monday.
So you were going to be flying home alone, according to you, on Sunday.
Well, I was going to fly back Wednesday night to be back to work for Thursday and Friday.
Yes.
And I didn't receive my paycheck for my last 2 weeks of pay, and I kept asking Lisa why I wasn't getting the paycheck, and she wasn't addressing it. And I didn't have the funds in my account to purchase a ticket back to work.
How did you purchase the ticket, Miss Burak, to go out there?
I had money in my account.
Well, I want to know how exactly you did that. Did you pay for that ticket in cash? Did you pay for that ticket with a credit card? How did you pay for that ticket? I'm sure you can document it for me.
I paid for my ticket online.
Online with what?
With my debit card.
You have a record of that?
I don't. I have a record of flying back, but I don't have a record of that, no.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
You know, Miss Burak, when you lie about one thing, your entire testimony becomes suspect, madam. The reason I asked to see this is because I didn't believe that the reason you didn't buy a return ticket was because you didn't have money in your account. And I didn't believe you when you said to me that I paid for it with a debit card because you're trying to think too hard. Now, it doesn't make sense for you to pay for one ticket going one way with a debit card and the other way with your MasterCard, which is how you paid for this ticket. So it didn't make any difference whether you had the paycheck in your account or not. You could have purchased your round-trip ticket at the same time you purchased a ticket going, you could have purchased it coming back. Because you didn't use a debit card, you used MasterCard.
Well, the reason why I didn't book the flight back was because I didn't have enough money in my account on
You told me
Thursday
that
night.
before. I didn't believe it when you told me for the first time. And now that you hand this thing to me, it clearly says that this ticket was purchased with a MasterCard, which doesn't require that you have the money in the bank at the time of the purchase. You just have to pay it when you get the bill. You follow me?
I follow you.
Good. So that's not why you didn't buy your ticket, because you didn't have money in the bank. So the story that you just told me about not buying the ticket on Wednesday is really not true.
Well, it is true.
No, it isn't. Then explain to me why it was purchased on MasterCard.
Because my fiancé offered to pay for my ticket.
He should have offered to pay for your ticket on Wednesday when you were due home.
Well, I didn't feel comfortable asking him.
I understand why you fired her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That requires a yes or a no answer.
They didn't pay me, yes, I would equally
That's
say.
not my question, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, maybe
this is my ballpark. Okay, my playground.
And later today,
If she felt that she needed the money before, she should have called the travel agent herself.
She could have done this and she would have done that. And if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that chair. She had an agreement with you.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nanny Danielle Burak claims former employer Lisa Adams terminated her without cause. Lisa says Danielle was unreliable.
Now you want me to believe that you had a contract with Miss Adams. Part of the contract was that if she was going to terminate you without cause, she would give you 30 days' notice. Because, Miss Burak, you cannot expect someone who has entrusted their most precious possession, their child, with you, if you do something that's wrong to the child, let's say she finds you hitting the child, you think she's required to give you 30 days' notice and pay you?
No, but that never
No.
happened.
No, the answer is no. You think that if she catches you doing drugs in the house, she's got to give you 30 days' notice and pay you? The answer would be, of course, no, right? Well, what Miss Adams is saying is she found you to be dishonest, that you were giving her dishonest answers for what your intentions were when you went on this vacation, that you had an intention to follow a course of conduct which was coming back late and being irresponsible. So while it's true that you didn't, as far as she knows, abuse her child or neglect her child, it is a short leap from being dishonest with regard to one thing to another. And what she's saying is she fired you for cause. And the cause was you were due back on Wednesday, and you didn't come back on Wednesday. We're going to come back the following Monday. That's unsatisfactory. You have a responsibility. Is this your fiancé?
Yes.
What kind of work does he do?
He's an artist. He's a photographer and a writer and a producer.
Does he have any full-time gainful employment?
Yes.
At what?
He's an actor.
Well, does he act in something regularly?
Yes.
What?
A show on ABC.
What show on ABC?
Wildfire.
He has a recurring role? I'm sorry, I haven't seen
Yes, he does.
Step up. Your last name is?
Haynes, Your Honor.
Mr. Haynes.
Yes, ma'am.
How often do you film Wildfire?
About once every 2 to 3 weeks.
And
They're building the roll-up.
how many days a week do you film, sir?
It can be anywhere from 3 to 5.
Sounds wonderful to me, sir.
Yes.
Did you ever call your producer and say to your producer, I'm in Santa Fe. I can't make it on Friday. I just answer my question. I'm in Santa Fe. I can't make it on Friday.
Well, Your Honor,
No. I'm just asking you a question, sir, that requires a yes or a no answer.
if they didn't pay me, yes, I would equally say.
That's not my question, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe
this is
it
my ballpark.
Yes, it is.
Okay, my playground. Did you ever call your producer and say to your producer, I can't get to Santa Fe on Friday. I'll come on Monday. Or have you always shown up when you're supposed to, on time?
I always show up when I'm supposed to.
Thank you. You can sit down now. You ought to teach your fiancé the same thing. You were fired, Miss Burak, for cause. The cause was that you acted irresponsibly. And if she fired you for cause, even if she had an agreement to give you notice without cause, for cause, she doesn't have to give you any notice, because that would be ridiculous. If you were abusing her child, she wasn't going to give you 30 days' notice. If you were neglecting her child, she wasn't going to give you 30 days' notice. And she found out that you were irresponsible. And this wasn't evidently a one-shot deal. This had happened before. Something that happens with nannies, by the way, because Miss Burak doesn't want to spend the next 30 years being a nanny. What I'm trying to tell you is Miss Burak is trying to find her way and figure out what she wants to do with her life, right? I know very, very few people who want to be Mrs. Doubtfire. That's their role in life. Do you understand?
Yes.
So if she blows you off for a day or two, most nannies feel as if they've got you right here because they're in charge of your children. You have no case, Miss Burak. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
While we do feel like Danielle did a good job with our child,
Well, I was very attached and very close to Kai.
it was really a culmination of things of dishonesty and deceit.
Well, I wasn't dishonest.
There were numerous incidents.
I really didn't have the funds to come back to work.
You know, the most important thing is my son, Kai.
I just hope that Kai finds peace.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mimsgrave versus Gilmore. Step forward.
19-year-old Brittany Mimsgrave is suing her former friend, Samantha Gilmore, for the return of money she paid to go on a cruise. Samantha says Brittany backed out at the last minute.
Miss Mimsgrave,
Yes.
Miss Gilmore was a friend of yours. You had been friends for a long time, according to what I read in
Yes.
your complaint. A group of girls decided to go on a trip. Where were you going?
We were going on a Mexican cruise.
For how many days?
A week.
And what was the cost to each girl?
It was $325 each.
Very reasonable for a whole week.
Yes.
Did they feed you on this trip for $325 for a week?
I actually don't know. I didn't go.
Do they feed you?
Yes, they do.
In any event, you paid Miss Gilmore your $325.
Yes.
She was making the arrangements. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And you?
19.
Am I correct that someone in the party had to be 21 in order for the girls to go?
Yes.
What you tell me in your complaint is that one of the girls, I believe her name was Ashley, was the 21-year-old, she backed out.
Yes.
So now you have a predicament. You've paid your $325, as have other girls, and unless you found someone else who was 21 years old, you couldn't go.
Yes.
So according to you, you waited for a while to see if somebody else was going to go and somebody else was going to go, and nothing happened, so you made other plans for that period of time. That's what you say. And according to you, Miss Gilmore decided to take her brother,
Yes. Well, actually,
decided to take her brother. He was going to pay for himself. And his brother had a friend whose name was
Gaius.
Gaius?
Gaius Mike. He goes by Mike.
Good. Whose name was Mike. Mike went on your ticket,
Yes.
and you want the money.
Yes.
Now, didn't Mike pay?
No.
Why not?
because we had made oral agreement that Mike was going to pay after the cruise, but Brittany showed up at my house the day before we left saying that she wanted it then.
Just a minute. Who did Mike make the arrangement with? With you?
With me. He made it with me and she made it with me.
Just a second. So Mike made the arrangement with you that he was going to pay for the trip.
Yes.
And you told her that Mike was paying for the trip. That was your agreement with him.
Yes.
Now she's suing you because you told her you're going to get your money for this ticket. That's what you told her.
Yes.
Go get the money from Mike. She has no way of suing him because they did not have an agreement. The agreement was between the two of you. You have a cause of action against him if he breached that agreement and didn't give you the money.
Yes, but since she had come to my house saying that she wanted the money earlier than she had expected, I figured if she felt that she needed the money before, even though he wasn't able to provide it for her, she should have called the travel agent herself and said that, because what she said was she wanted her ticket or the money.
Madam.
Ma'am.
She could have done this and she would have done that, and if she did this, she wouldn't have been in that chair. She had an agreement with you, and the agreement was you were going to give her back her money because your brother and his friend were going on this trip with you. And if the friend stiffed you, sue him. He went, he had a good time. I assume he ate, right? Well, I'm sure his company wasn't that terrific that entitled him to a free ride, right? Right, Mr. Gilmore? You wouldn't give him a free ride.
Ma'am, she canceled out at the very last minute.
Are you following me? Your daughter made an agreement with her that she would get her money back. She has to do that. Now, since she did not gain anything herself, perhaps, unless she likes Mike, she has an absolute right to turn around and sue Mike for the cost of the ticket because he promised to pay her, and he didn't. She may have had a lot of other options. She doesn't have to exercise all those other options. She had an agreement with your daughter. Do you get it?
Yes.
Good. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment and the expenses surrounding harassment. Ms. Gilmore, you want to tell me about that?
Yes, when she had decided 4 days we had agreed that Mike was going to take her place. We had made the agreement that he was going to pay after, and she kept constantly calling saying that she wanted the money earlier, and I told her that I didn't have it and that Mike hadn't given it to me, and she kept calling me, harassing me, and showing up. She showed up at my house the day before saying she wanted the money or the ticket, and the option was that she could call the travel agent and say that she wanted her place back because I didn't have the money. So she was calling me constantly, leaving me messages, called me when I was at work.
That's what happens when she feels as if you were stiffing her money. That's not a cause of action for harassment. You have to give her the $325, and I suggest that you and your father, when you leave here, you go to small claims court and you sue Mike for the trip that he took, that he enjoyed, that so far he didn't pay for, right?
Right.
As between the two of you, you owe her $325. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. Goodbye.
Parties are excused.
Daniel Michael is suing his friend's former friend, Talena Bush, for a counterfeit check he cashed on her behalf. Talena says she is also an innocent victim.
That's case number 328 on the calendar, the matter of Michael versus Bush.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Mr. Michael, the defendant is a friend of yours.
Correct.
This is the friend.
His name is Peter All.
And you know Peter because you have custody of his 4 children.
Correct.
You have custody of his 4 children because he and the mother of those children are incapacitated.
They got in trouble in previous times, and
With drugs.
I'm not sure what legal matters, but yes.
Trust
ma'am.
me.
Okay.
In any event, how long have you had custody of the children?
I'm starting my 5th year now.
As a foster parent?
Actually, as a guardian. I don't get like court benefits.
So you support them?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a paramedic firefighter.
How did you come to take the children?
I actually knew their mom. She lived in the neighborhood, and basically we knew each other that way. And when she got in trouble, I basically said that I would take care of them until she got out of the trouble she got into.
And how often does their father see them?
He doesn't see them as often as I'd like him to, but he does spend some time with them. And
does he give you any money for their support?
well, he's done things like he's bought shoes for them and things like that. And
Money for their support.
Yeah, there's been a couple occasions, you know, he'll give you 50, $60 different times.
And their mother?
She's in Florida and haven't seen her for a few years.
Well, Mr. Michael, it's interesting to know that there are still people around like you.
Thank you.
Anyway, Peter over here came to you and said to you that his girlfriend had a check that needed to be cashed. It was a certified check, according to you. And so, because you're a good soul, you said, well, if she's willing to wait, I'll put the money in my bank, because I don't have that much money. It was $6,000. I'll put the money in my account. When the check clears, I'll give her the money. But then somebody cried to you that they really needed the money. Who was that?
Well, when they first came to me, they basically said that it was they didn't say girlfriend, boyfriend. They said that they were doing web designs together, business partners. And they basically said that they were short some cash right then. And so I said, well, I'd give them $2,500 up front.
So you gave them the $2,500, and then later you gave them $3,500.
After the check cleared my bank, and my bank called me and said the check had cleared, I withdrew the rest of the amount and proceeded in giving the rest of the amount to them.
Who did you give it to?
I had to give it to PD All because at the time I didn't have Talena's address, didn't have a number or anything, and at the bank she was the one that stated to give it to him and that she would get it.
No, I never said that.
Listen to me.
Sorry.
Don't interrupt.
I'm sorry.
Good. When did the bank advise you that the check was bad?
It was the 31st of May.
Can I see the statement, please?
Yeah. There's the original check, and there's the notification from the bank.
Where did you get this check from, Miss Bush?
I got an email from someone that wanted me to build them a catering website, and he said he would send me the check. He wanted a 12-page website, and when I got the check, I did not have a banking account, so I asked...
How old are you?
32.
You're 32 years old, and you don't have a bank account?
I had just moved from North Carolina to Kentucky.
When?
Maybe 2 months before I got the check.
Yes.
And I didn't have
Who
a
are you
banking
living
account.
with?
I live by well, he stays with me.
That would be me, her brother.
You live in an apartment or a house?
House.
Do you rent it?
I'm owning it. I'm buying it.
Were you renting it?
No.
Well, whose house is it? How do you pay the rent?
It's in his
It
name.
would be my name. All of it.
So you didn't have a bank account?
No.
Why didn't you go to your brother and say to your brother, who is a homeowner, who clearly has a bank account, why don't you cash this check for me?
It's a rent-to-own type deal. He doesn't have a banking account either.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that somebody who pays for a house, and he's clearly somebody who's been around the block a few times, doesn't have a bank account or credit card. You have a wallet with you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Take out your wallet. Put it over there. Open up his wallet. Is there a credit card in there?
They're all mine.
Is there a credit card in there, is my
Yes.
question. Take them all out.
Okay. I had a bank account at one
Just
time.
a second. Just take them out. All the credit cards.
They're all not good.
How many credit cards are there?
2,
Bert, can I see the credit cards,
3,
please?
4.
I'll take them all.
The credit cards. Thank you.
Bert, would you look in the wallet and make sure there are no other credit cards there, please? Thank you.
The one with my...
Shh, quiet. Is your name Jason?
Yeah.
Yes, would be the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have one credit card that's yours, and I have 3 credit cards that are your sister's.
That's
would be you,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, and one is a debit card.
But the one...
Just a second, one is a debit card. Now, I don't use this kind of stuff, but wouldn't a debit card presuppose that you have a checking account that goes with it, Bird?
That's a general
That's
idea.
the general idea. You don't take this money out of, a chicken coop. You
The
take it out of a
only
bank, right?
The only reason why I have that credit card in there is because I lost my ID and it's got my picture on it, and it was an old banking account that I closed in North Carolina.
So why don't you rip it up?
Because I have to have it for my picture to come out here
Oh,
to
let's
fly.
go. U.S. Airways, Dividend Miles Platinum, and Liberty Union. What's Liberty Union?
It's a prepaid credit card. All them credit cards are prepaid.
Okay,
And
so a prepaid credit card doesn't mean you have to pay the bill?
No, it means you put money on it to have the money on your card. They don't give you credit. You just put the money on it.
And what about wired plastic?
That's a prepaid. You have to put money on it. It's just a way, so if you want to buy an airplane ticket or rent a hotel, you can do it. It's prepaid. You don't have to have credit. You just...
And how do you pay for the...
You put it on Western Union, and then the money's there for you to use it, to do things like that
You
with it.
send them the cash into them to Western Union?
Yes, ma'am. It's prepaid.
Never heard of anything like this in my life. You have a bank account?
No, ma'am.
What's the name of the company you worked for who sent you this check?
Extreme Web Design is the name of the company that I own. I'm the only person that works there.
I didn't ask you that. I said, what is the name of the company who wrote you this check?
Carlton's Catering Service.
Where are they located?
They're in UK is where it came from. But he said he was opening up a business in Cancun, Mexico, and requested for me to build him a website, 12 pages. And then after I had gotten the money, actually...
Listen to me very carefully, sir. They're all a bunch of scammers. Him and her and the brother. You got scammed out of $6,000. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Her excuse is he ran off for $3,500. I don't believe it. They scammed you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much money do you give Mr. Michael for your 4 children every week?
We'll give it to him every week.
Outrageous, sir. You are an outrage.
And later today,
she called me and said, I need to get my act together. I want to come back. I'm going to join AA. And I said, okay, we can make this work.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Michael claims former friend Talena Bush had him cash a counterfeit check for $6,000.
If he deserted his 4 children and is not parenting his 4 children, doing the most dishonest thing that a person could do, make children and then desert them, why do you think he would be honest with you?
You know, he's just really been trying, and like I said, he comes around.
He's been trying? I can look at him and tell how hard he's been trying. Where do you work?
I work for Cox Drywall.
Stand up.
I work every day.
Good. How much? That's great. How much money do you earn?
14 an hour.
How much money do you take home a week?
After taxes, probably over 400.
And who do you live with?
Oh,
it's not an answer.
My fiance and 2 children.
Who's the fiance?
Misty.
Who is she?
It's a friend.
Wasn't your girlfriend?
No, she wasn't my girlfriend. We just
So you
friends.
live with Misty?
In business together.
You're in business with her?
I used to be her errands. Used to run errands for us, what I did.
Right. How much money do you give Mr. Michael for your 4 children every week?
We'll give it to him every week.
Why not?
Just don't.
Why?
I don't know.
Outrageous, sir. You are an outrage.
Yeah, I'm an outrage.
You're an outrage. Sit
Yeah.
down. Give her back this check, please. Can't look at her anymore. Him either. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all, sir. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Keep your hard-earned money in the bank where you are going to need it for these children. Understand? Because you're not going to get any help from him.
Thank you.
That's all.
Parties are excused. I'm going to step out.
I didn't scam Dan.
I tried to lend them money in good faith and got taken for it.
I basically was scammed myself.
If she got scammed by a check or not, I honestly don't know.
Well, I didn't get the other $3,500. Dan gave that to Petey, and then he ran off with it.
I wish I did get $3,500. Buried, she lying.
It was a bad check. She didn't know about it, and she got took from him. He hustled her.
They're together. They're the scam artists.
I felt bad for Dan, yes.
I'm not going to cash people's checks anymore. You learn from your mistakes.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Howard versus Kozar. Step forward, please.
22-year-old Kendra Howard is suing former roommate Bridget Kozar for pocketing their rent money. Kendra claims Bridget is a thief.
Miss Howard, you and the defendant decided to lease an apartment together. And it is your claim that during the term that you actually lived together, it was your practice to give the defendant your half of the rent.
Yes.
The defendant acknowledges that that was the practice, that you gave her your half of the rent. You claim that she moved out, and when you checked with the landlord says that the landlord never got your half of the rent, that there was a substantial amount still owing on the lease, and you want to know where your money went. Ms. Kozier says that she actually did pay the rent each and every month that you were there. You were late in paying your rent, which caused late fees to accrue on the rent. Late fees, according to you, which was $3,270. That's a lot of late fees. Anyway, so I assume we're going to be able to work this out with paperwork. When did you decide to live together?
It would have been October of 2005.
And when did you sign the lease?
I believe it was November 31st of 2005. We moved in December 1st.
There were only 30 days in November.
I'm sorry, 30th.
I just went through that in my head very quickly because I was practically positive I never heard of anybody being born on November 31st. Okay. Who moved into the house?
She did first for about, I think it was 2 or 3 days before I got everything over there.
Is it a house or an apartment?
It's an apartment.
How many bedrooms?
3.
And who lived there?
Myself and the defendant.
What was the rent?
It was $809 a month.
Okay. And when did you leave?
I left the 30th of July.
So you were there 8 months?
Yes.
Why did you leave?
The plaintiff had made it quite clear that she wanted me out of the apartment. She wanted me gone and the place for herself and her boyfriend. And she made the situation to live there quite impossible. And for my safety, I decided I needed to get out. I couldn't wait till the end of the lease.
This is the boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay. You living in the apartment now?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Together?
Yes, ma'am.
Same apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have a statement from the landlord that 1st of August, what the arrears were on the rent?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please.
I don't have the actual statement from the landlord. I have the amount of money that they told me was owed and everything.
That's not what I asked for.
Okay, I apologize.
I asked for a statement from the landlord.
From the landlord, okay, that I don't have.
Well, I don't accept what you have. What you have is merely your calculations. That's hearsay, Miss Howard.
Well, I also have a sworn affidavit. I have receipts from what I paid that day.
Sworn
and
affidavit
everything.
from whom?
From my father.
I have to see from the landlord what it is that he said were arrearages. Do you have that?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Oh, great. Can I see it, please?
You certainly may. It's handwritten on the bottom.
No, I'm not interested in what's handwritten on the bottom. I'm interested in this printed.
Well, it would be at the top of the page, ma'am.
Okay, so the balance due as of July 30th was $2,377.
Yes.
So I assume you have checks to the landlord.
They did not accept checks, only money orders, and I have a few of the money order stubs, yes.
Well, what about receipts?
They didn't give receipts.
They've given me a receipt every time I've gone in there to pay.
No, Miss Kozar.
I'm sorry, they did not give me a receipt when I went in.
Well, that's your problem. Miss Kozar, you have a problem. Your problem is your own statement acknowledges that the plaintiff paid you her share of the rent each month, albeit sometimes late. That's what you swear to in your answer. And you say that late fees accrued because she paid the rent late. But there are no late fees that would have accrued that would have brought the balance of what was owed to $2,377.20.
Part of what was paid, that had to be paid for her to be able to sign me off the lease to get me out of the apartment, which was what she wanted. And that was also August's rent.
How much was that?
$3,200.
$3,200 to get her off the lease?
No, that was how much was owed, and I didn't want to have a judgment against me, and that's why I paid it.
Well, is that also to get her off the lease?
No, I wasn't worried about getting her off the lease at that point.
How much did it cost you to get her off the lease?
Not a dime.
Nothing?
No.
Okay, who are you?
Alicia.
Alicia what?
Moreland.
Are you a landlord or work for the landlord?
No.
Who are you?
I am her best friend, and the reason why I know this is because every time that we went in there, I went with her. And at the bottom of the notice, it says in order for
I don't take what's in the bottom of the notice.
Okay.
The bottom of the notice is hearsay.
Okay.
Sit.
May I present my side, ma'am?
Sure.
Okay. We moved in, and the first month went okay, but by February, she was having problems with her current boyfriend because they were drinking too much.
Listen,
and
get on with the rent.
We weren't even together.
She moved out in February, just up and moved out because she broke up with the boyfriend, couldn't handle it, needed to leave, left for Illinois.
Don't speak.
And I paid my half of that month's rent, but that still left me up in the air for her half. That's when the late fees, yes, that's when the late fees started accruing.
Okay.
Then she called me and said, I need to get my act together. I want to come back. I'm going to join AA. And I said, okay, we can make this work. You know, and so I drove her to AA meetings and helped her work.
Get on with the rent.
And then it was a little bit before she got a job, and her dad paid for her expenses. But in the meantime, she may have come up with rent, but the late fees were still accruing, and I was paying her half of the utilities and taking care of her animal. And from there on, it just snowballed. Now to
listen to me. I hear your side of the case, and your side of the case is pretty much what you said in the answer, which was I did an awful lot of stuff for her. Bottom line is you were responsible for ensuring that the rent was paid. And I have heard nothing that either she or her father didn't see to it that her half of the rent was paid. And yet there is a deficiency of $2,300.
That whole $2,300 was not back fees. That also included the August's rent that she had to pay to stay in there.
You weren't there in August.
No, I was moved out by then. But they wanted August's rent, and that was part of the $2,300 she had to pay.
Is that correct? No, it wasn't. That's what brought it to $3,200.
Just a second. Was that part of August's rent?
No, not at all.
$3,200? Okay. This says, as of July 30th, what was owed was $2,377.20. And Ms. Kozar, unless you can establish to my satisfaction that you paid this money to the landlord, this is your debt. It was your responsibility to pay the landlord. Now, you pay the landlord by money order, and if you pay the landlord by money order, you get a rent receipt. And if you didn't get a rent receipt, then you had ample opportunity to go back to the landlord when you knew you were being sued for this money and saying, look.
I did go back to the landlord.
Show me the rent receipts.
They didn't have any of the rent receipts in our file.
Well, then that's not my problem, madam. That's what you have to do. How old are you?
I'm 42.
And you have how many children?
I have 3.
You have 3 children. So somebody who's 42 years old and has 3 children, when they make a business arrangement with somebody who is how old?
22.
22. You're supposed to act responsibly. And the responsible thing for you to do is keep records, keep a bank account. That's what you're supposed to do. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,377. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Urban planner Stacy Flynn is suing her former upstairs neighbor, 21-year-old science instructor Jasmine Kivett, for water damage to her apartment. Stacy claims Jasmine overflowed her bathtub.
Now, this is case number 8 on the calendar, the matter of Flynn versus Kivett. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Flynn, how long have you lived in the building where you are currently residing?
I'm not currently residing there any longer, but I lived there for 15 years.
How long have you been out of that building?
1 month.
And how long had Miss Kivett been your upstairs neighbor?
Approximately 1 year.
Did you have any difficulty with her before this incident happened?
Nothing face-to-face, but was always noisy prior to this incident.
Had you ever complained?
No.
And on February 14th, tell me what happened.
On February 14th at 5 p.m., I entered my apartment and discovered that the ceiling and the walls were flowing with steady streams of water. Instantly, I ran to management and asked them if they could assist me in the problem, and informed me that Jasmine Kivett, the resident above me in number 327.
Don't tell me what they said to you. Pronounce your last name?
Kivett.
Miss Kivett, you were home on February 14th.
Yes.
And you're going to tell me that through no fault of your own, the bathtub overflowed.
Yes.
And it was that overflowing bathtub that caused the damage to Miss Flynn's home.
Yes.
Because it was the bathtub's fault.
No, Your Honor.
Well, that's what I read here. It was the bathtub's fault. The bathtub didn't have an appropriate little hole in it. And even though you left the water running, it was the bathtub's fault for not having a hole.
There was no overflow drain.
Overflow drain. I'm not good at those things. So it was the bathtub's fault because it didn't have an overflow drain.
No, Your Honor.
Whose fault was it?
I was bleaching my bathtub, and there were tons of chemicals. The chemicals were so strong, I had to dilute them. So I left the water running, and I just was doing spring cleaning. It was an honest mistake. The water began to overflow. I did what I could to try and remedy the situation. It was an honest mistake, and she handled it in such a way that I had no choice but to refuse to pay her.
You come from California?
Yes.
What do you do?
I work at a company called Mad Science, and I teach in-class workshops and after-school programs.
You look like a nice young lady.
Thank you.
You're not seriously suggesting to me that you're not responsible for the damage to her apartment and to her things.
I understand that what happened was not her fault at all. She could not help the water coming into her apartment, of course, but the way that she handled it, she attacked me in such a manner. She provided me no evidence when she asked me for money. She wouldn't let me into her apartment to assess the damage, and the 2 people who were able to see the damage told me that it was very minimal. They had dealt with her numerous times, that she was crazy, and I was beginning to think that she was a little crazy because she would yell at me, cuss at me. She would stand on her balcony demanding money.
Well, this happened on February 14th.
Yes.
So now we've acknowledged, Miss Kivett, that you are at fault. You lived in that apartment for a year.
Yes.
You know that the bathtub did not have
an
hole,
overflow drain.
an overflow drain. Yes. This wasn't a surprise bathtub. It didn't sneak it in there,
No.
right, when you weren't looking.
Of course
This
not.
was the same old bathtub that was in there that was dirty because you hadn't been cleaning it all along. So you were bleaching it out and doing other spring cleaning, and you forgot about it.
I knew that the water was diluting the chemicals. It had to. I couldn't just leave the bleach, and it was such a...
Well, if it was diluting the chemicals, the water was
running, of course, yes.
And if the water was running and you didn't check on it often enough, then it was going to overflow,
yes.
because it had no...
It had no overflow drain.
Right.
I was under the impression that in the state of California there must be an overflow drain or your plumbing's not up to code.
Okay. All right. There we go. Bert, stand up there, and I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see any of that. So let me understand something. It was the bathtub's fault that it wasn't up to code. Either that or you thought that somehow between the time you started to bleach the tub out and the time it overflowed, it came up to code and somebody snuck in an overflow hole?
No, Your Honor.
So that you knew that there was no place for this water to go if you left the water running except on the floor. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're not talking anymore about liability. We have now, you and I, determined, my dear, that it's not the bathtub's fault that it overflowed.
Of course not.
It's your fault. You were dusting and cleaning and being Martha Stewart and weren't paying attention to what was going on in your bathtub. Now the question is, what are the damages that Miss Flynn, the perfectly innocent bystander to this, suffered as a result of your negligence? Don't laugh at her. Don't smile at her. Just show me the damage.
Well, there was a raw pine dresser. It was in my closet with all of my other clothing, and ended up being completely saturated and soaked. It swelled so bad that I couldn't open any drawers.
Okay.
So I replaced a dresser. There was a wool braided rug that was also damaged.
I assume you took photographs?
Yes, I did.
Can I just see them, please?
Sure.
Good. Now, when did you tell the defendant about the damages and how much they were?
On the day that the incident occurred, I went to her apartment and I confronted her and informed her that there was a serious situation occurring in my apartment and that at some point we were going to have to do a damage assessment. For 2 weeks, I didn't hear one thing from her. So I wrote her a letter informing her that I was expecting her to assume responsibility and that I was willing to give her a break on certain items that were damaged because I understood she was having a difficult time.
Okay. So far, I see a lot of walls. You didn't replace any of the walls.
No.
You didn't repaint or anything.
Right.
They did that. Okay. How much did it cost you to replace the dresser?
$216.
You have a bill?
Yes, I do.
Can I see it, please? And the rug?
Haven't replaced it.
How much did you pay for it?
It was $180.
What happened to the Tiffany lamp?
Water came down on the surface area where I had a coffee table, burned it out, wouldn't work.
Okay. $489 is what your bills are.
Here is a $75 bill to clean my carpet.
Okay, let me take a look at that. Okay. I think that you're responsible for $564 worth of damage to her apartment, including the cost of cleaning carpets. What do you want to show me?
I have a letter in which she states that she bought a rug from Walmart for $39, and now she's charging me for a different one for $200.
In place of the one for $180.
Let me see the letter. So instead of the rug for $180, you replaced it with a rug for $39?
I said that in this letter, if you'll read it, it's stating that I expected her to assume responsibility and that I would give her a break and I was willing to work with her. That arrangement was created in hope that I didn't have to go to court and sue her.
Okay, the items that she originally indicated to you come to $366.
Yes.
Plus a lot of aggravation.
Your Honor, I tried to work with her. I have a phone bill here.
So what did you offer her?
I called her numerous times.
What did you offer her?
She was harassing me, and I asked to see the damage. I couldn't offer her anything without knowing what I was paying for. All I asked for was a mere photograph or to be let into her apartment to see. You know, I apologized for what happened, but I said, can we work together? Can I see what's going on? I can't just blindly hand you money and say, here, I know there was a flood, so here's all my money. All I asked was to see what happened.
Judge Judy, for 2 weeks, I had to try to wrangle her into coming to take damage assessment, into trying to come to my apartment.
What was the
set up
first
an
date on
appointment.
your phone bill? What was the first date that you called her after the flood?
February 22nd.
That's not enough.
That's not before I had her phone
Listen
number.
to me, my dear. You don't need a phone number. You go up to her apartment, write her a note.
I did. I didn't write a note, but I knocked on the door.
Listen to me. If this happened on February 14th,
yes,
you going up to her a week later is not sufficient. You calling her on the telephone a week later is not sufficient. She's not going to keep dirty laundry, a rug around while you make time to go up to her house.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You've made this case very, very complex because this convoluted story that you tell me doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Zai. It's a very dumb thing to do.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Stacy Flynn says her former upstairs neighbor, Jasmine Cavett, damaged her apartment when she overflowed her bathtub. Jasmine says it was an accident.
Look, the original bills that you gave her amounted to $366. What you've padded over the next couple of months, because you've been aggravated and annoyed, come to $564. Quite honestly, I believe that your time is worth something.
Thank you.
Your time to clean the premises, the time to get rid of the rug, the time to go out and buy new boots, the time to sop up the stuff, the time to wait for people to come and clean the carpeting. That's worth something. Now, the fact that the defendant says it was an accident, well, it certainly wasn't on purpose. She didn't mean to cause this flood, but she did cause the flood, and she was responsible for the consequences, including your loss of time. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I didn't even know her. She apparently didn't like me. I have no idea why.
Completely irresponsible, total drama queen, liar.
I felt unsafe going home. I never knew what she was going to do.
Never once did she even come down to my apartment and ask me if she could help.
Where's my effing money?
Maybe this will teach her a lesson, hopefully.
It's a learning experience.
When she watches Judge Judy, she probably won't ever forget what she did.
You have a very busy corporate schedule.
Yes, I do.
Like what?
I do bartend as well as model, and I'm pursuing other social non-for-profit organizations.
She for real or what?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Zai versus Hagedorn, step forward.
Real estate investor Kumar Zai is suing former friend, 25-year-old bartender Morgan Hagedorn, for a loan for bail. Morgan claims Kumar's pawned her laptop and digital camera behind her back.
Mr. Zai, it is your claim that the defendant owes you some money for bail and for collect calls that she made to your home from jail. She is, according to what I've read in your complaint, the ex-roommate of your ex-girlfriend.
Correct, Your Honor.
Is that right?
Yes.
Ms. Hagedorn?
Yes.
When were you arrested and for what?
It was early March of last year, and I was arrested for driving on a suspended license.
Why didn't you have a license?
Prior court tie-ups.
What does that mean, prior court tie-ups?
What had happened is I had received a notice in the mail, and I did not fill it out in time or get it back, and therefore my license was suspended.
How many times was your license suspended?
Just the once, but due to missing court dates and whatnot, I got it revoked as well as a bench warrant for my arrest, and that's when I was arrested.
You have a very busy corporate schedule, Ms. Hagedorn?
Yes, I do.
You do? Like what?
I do bartend full-time as well as model, and I'm pursuing other social non-for-profit organizations here in, well, my hometown, St. Louis.
Is she for real or what?
It takes up a lot of my time.
You get a copy of my old book, will you please?
Put that on your schedule.
Why did you call Mr. Zai when you got busted?
I called my roommate, and she was at his apartment, and I didn't know what to do.
Called your roommate on her cell phone?
That is correct.
And you found her at Mr. Zai's apartment?
They witnessed the arrest, and they were aware of what had happened.
Just listen to me very carefully. You called her on her cell phone?
I do believe.
What does that mean, you do believe?
It's been a long time, and it was a very traumatic night.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Zai?
I'm a real estate investor.
Did she call you in your house?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have the phone bill?
Unfortunately, I couldn't obtain the phone bill. No, I don't have the phone record.
Well, what evidence do you have of this whole thing, sir?
Well, I do have a paper from the court from the day that I actually went and bailed her out of jail. I had to charge it on my credit card. There was a record of that, and which was actually the bond money. And I also have a court paper that shows that they refunded the bond money to her and her attorney instead of coming back to me.
Why is that? Ms. Hagedorn, why did you take the bond money?
I did not receive any bond money. I was told that I was not to receive it, and it was to be paid to my attorney for services rendered.
Who's your attorney?
Leland.
Phone number?
I do not have that information on
Go get it! Go get it!
Okay.
Ready?
Area code 947.
Okay, and it is your testimony that you never saw any of this money, and it went to your attorney for counsel fees that were your responsibility?
Yes.
They were Mr. Zai's responsibility?
That is correct.
Good. So why don't you owe him this money, $1,095?
Well, what happened, Your Honor? Kumars told me that he had taken my laptop as well as my digital camera that was at his girlfriend's grandmother's house, and he pawned it off. This was a brand new laptop.
Go ahead.
Your Honor. What had happened was she pawned her computer approximately 2 months prior to this incident, along with her digital camera. And my ex-girlfriend's grandmother felt sorry for her, went to the pawn shop, got it out of there, and held on to it till she gives her the money to, basically get it back.
So she pawned it?
She pawned it originally, and after repeated phone calls, I've called her at least 20, 30 times, left messages for her, to give me a call back, let's make an arrangement, to pay this money back to me. Never heard back from her. So I contacted my ex-girlfriend's grandmother. I said, is there a way I can get the computer from you to maybe sell it, to maybe recover some of my money? And she says, well, let me call her and tell her that this is what I'm doing. I said, that's fine. And I paid $300 to her, my ex-girlfriend's grandmother, to get her computer and her digital camera. I called her. I said, I have your computer, I have your digital camera. If you want to come and pay me the money that you owe me, it's sitting right here. Otherwise, I'm going to try to sell it to recover some of my money. Never heard back from her again. So,
did you sell it?
I sold the computer for $325. I still have the digital camera. I brought it with me to give it back to her.
Well, so you sort of resorted to self-help, sir. You've made this case, which was a relatively simple case, very, very complex.
Yes, sir.
Do you understand, Mr. Zai?
Yes, I understand.
You should have come to me before you resorted to self-help, sir, because this convoluted story that you tell me doesn't make sense to me, Mr. Zai. It's a very dumb thing to do. And since you've complicated the situation, there's very little I can do to help you. I mean, this lady, I know, has a very busy corporate schedule, but she doesn't know whether she's a foot or horseback. I don't know whether you got full value for the computer when you sold it for $300. You can't do what you did. You created a problem by complicating the situation by resorting to your own form of self-help. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
I can't help you. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
27-year-old babysitter Shanika Davidson is suing nightclub owner Charles Tatum for medical bills and pain and suffering. Shanika says she tripped and fell while fleeing from a brawl inside his club.
All rise.
Yeah, this is case number 135 on the calendar in the matter of Davidson versus Tatum. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Davidson, you were a guest at the defendant's club. And according to your complaint, a fight broke out. Some sort of a scuffle broke out, and everybody started to run towards the exits. You tripped over a piece of carpeting or rug, and you were injured. You want the defendant to pay for your injuries as well as your pain and suffering. And Mr. Tatum says you fell, it was your fault. Pretty much.
Yes, Your Honor. I have a...
Okay, good. Tell me when this happened.
It happened April 31st.
Impossible.
On May 1st, 2004.
What kind of club is it?
It's a sports bar, restaurant, dance bar, too.
Have you ever been to the club before?
Yes.
How many times?
I'd say give or take about 5 times.
All right, tell me what happened.
Well, me and my cousin got there about 12:30.
Is this your cousin?
Uh-huh. My cousin's boyfriend was throwing this party where you had to pay $7 to get in, and all the drinks were supposed to be free. So we got in, paid our $7, we went to the bar where they was giving out the free stuff, and then we sat down and just started talking. And all of a sudden, a big bunch of people was in this section, and then just several fights, just one fight broke out, and then it seemed like several fights just broke out, and everybody just started running. And when everybody started running, my cousin said, "Come on, Shanika, come on." So I started running. Then I tripped over the rug and fell forward, and my ankle just went down and like clamped. And my cousin covered me. I hit the wall, and so my cousin covered my body because she thought I was going to get trampled by all the people running out. And when the crowd cleared out, that's when me and her came out, and we got in our car and left and went home.
Do you have a medical record?
I went to the hospital about 12 that afternoon.
How many people were in the club?
I'd say about 70 to 80.
Was your ankle put in a cast?
Yes, I had a ankle brace.
For how long?
2 weeks.
Okay. Did you have any out-of-pocket expenses?
I have to wait until Medicaid informs me on how much I have to pay. They do not pay for the emergency room doctors.
Okay. Tell me about this rug that you tripped over.
Well, the rug is in front of the door, the exit door, and I don't know if it was wet or whatever, and I slid up, and
Is it a carpet that's down, that's tacked down, or is it a runner?
Carpet.
It's a carpet.
Mm-hmm.
Was it raised in any way?
It was torn, and he had some covering on top of it.
Go ahead, Mr. Tatum.
Your Honor, I'm definitely in disagreement with her entire testimony.
Well, you're not suggesting that Miss Davidson is lying and making up a story that she fell at your sports club.
I'm really not sure of that because I was never informed, period, of whether she was failed or any of my staff members, whether she ever contacted any of those on the night in question. So there's no evidence other than her testimony that she did.
Okay. And her cousins, who's going to stand up right now. Tell me your name.
My name is David Talley.
You were with your cousin, Miss Davidson, on the night, and I assume that the night is the 30th of April because the emergency room visit was the next day on the 1st of May. You went there for a function?
Yes, ma'am.
What time did these fights break out in the club?
It was around 2, because by the time we got home, it was maybe about 2:30, so it was around about 2 because we waited on everything to clear out before we actually left out the club.
When you say you waited until everything cleared out, explain that to me.
Because everybody was running. Once they started fighting, everybody just started running. And when she fell, like I said, I covered her body, and when I covered her body just to make sure that she wouldn't get trampled on, we were right by the exit door because the door sticks out. He has like a wooden part that sticks out, and you can open the door that goes out. And on the side, it's just where the wall is. We stayed right there in that corner till everybody ran out, and then I walked her out the door.
Okay. Now, Mr. Tatum, were you in the club the night of the 30th of April?
That particular incident, I was there.
Look, Mr. Tatum, I want you to look over there.
Yeah.
Don't look down there. I want you to look right over here, sir.
I was thinking. No.
Well,
but I was there. I was there when that altercation broke out, that particular altercation. I was actually on the side of that particular night, yes, I was.
What did you see?
I was on stage announcing that we were about to have the contest, that we were giving away $200 to the sexiest lady in the club. And we had announced it on that song, and prior to getting to that song, there was altercation broke out on the dance floor. And I immediately left the stage and went over and proceeded to help break up the altercation myself. So there was no altercation in the back. It was on the dance floor because I was there. There was one mirror broken at that particular incident. And
are you telling me, Mr. Tatum, that nobody ran out of the club?
At that particular time, I was at front. I couldn't see who went out the back. I could not see. My security guard was at the back. He may be able to give you a more clear view of that.
Tell me your last name, sir.
Tate.
Mr. Tate, how many people ran out of the club that evening?
It was several run out.
Would you say several is more than 5 or less than 5?
More than 5.
More than 10 or less than 10?
More than 10.
Right. And when they ran out of the club, they ran out of the club. Why, Mr. Tate? Because they got nervous because there was a fight?
Yes, ma'am.
Let me see the pictures, Mr. Tatum, of the carpet that you are going to show me.
I have a videotape as well, Your Honor.
Of what?
Of the club and the carpet in question.
When did you take a videotape of that carpeting?
I took that as soon as I was contacted about the suit, and I had done nothing to the carpet or to the club prior to that point. And I have some pictures here.
I'm not so sure, sir, but let me see the pictures. I don't have to see the videotape. The videotape was prepared after you were notified that you were going to get sued.
I didn't take up the carpet, Your Honor, or neither did I put anything down. Carpet is in excellent condition.
All I want you to show me, Miss Davidson, is there anywhere here which depicts the entranceway to the club where you fell?
Right here. That's the exit.
Is that where you fell?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Bird, let me take a quick look at that, would you please?
Where this door is.
Where this door is? Well, I can't see the carpet.
Where that bar stool goes down, right before he had it fixed, it was split right there where the carpets meet on both sides, where if you can tell the rail that goes down the middle, it used to be bulged. It had a rubber mat that used to be there. He's removed that and smoothed it out and put the carpet there because I went last week, and it's been smoothed out, and it's not there anymore because I've almost tripped over it a time before when I've went.
That's not true, Your Honor. I've never done anything to that carpet. That carpet is one continuous piece. It's been put together with carpet tape. It is one continuous carpet. I do everything I possibly can to make my establishment safe.
I'm sure you
no guns in there.
Mr. Tatum, I'm sure you do. I have to make a judgment as to who I believe. She says she went back there and you had changed the contour of the carpet. And she describes exactly how you changed the contour of the carpet, Mr. Tatum. Now, I have some questions for Mr. Tate. Mr. Tate, there were between 80 and 100 people there that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
How many in security do you have?
It's 5 of us.
Okay, were all 5 people there that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you do?
I make sure no one comes in that door. Everybody go out that door that she's talking about she fell at, and I make sure no one comes in. And if any altercations come up, I help with those.
Well, what does that mean, Mr. Tate? That you make sure that everybody goes in and out of that door that she goes out of?
If they go out that door, they cannot come back in that one. They enter the door with the security warrant to check for any weapons, anything.
Yes.
You know, and I wanted to add that when the fight broke out, the security wasn't trying to break up the fight. He just opened the door to make people run out. Sometimes I've even caught him running from a fight, Mr. Tatum.
That's a bold-faced lie right there, Your Honor.
Did you notice, Mr. Tatum, do you have insurance?
Yes, I do.
When you were notified by Miss Davidson that she fell, did you notify your insurance company?
Not right off, Your Honor. I don't believe it. I think she's lying. Like she's lying right there about me running from a fight. I don't need to run. I work out. I'm very well capable of taking care of myself.
Mr. Davidson,
and we know they don't have guns, they don't have knives.
I asked you a question.
So is this
what doesn't have guns and what doesn't have knives? He says he checks for guns and knives. So I assume that if you're checking for guns and knives, there's been a history of people trying to bring guns and knives into the club. I mean, that's
in other clubs, Your Honor, not in my club.
Yeah. Mr. Tatum, your own employee says his function is to ensure when people come into the club that they do not bring in guns and knives. That's what he's searching for, correct?
Correct.
You're not searching their pocketbooks for turkeys, chickens, hens. You're not searching for that, are you?
No, ma'am.
No. You're searching for guns and knives. And the reason you're searching for guns and knives is because sometimes people try to bring in those weapons into a club. Is that right?
That's right.
All right. Mr. Tatum, I mean, I don't want you to think that I'm stupid, sir. I'm not a stupid person.
I wouldn't dare.
That's why he's there. That's why he's there. He's there because there's been a history of people trying to bring guns and knives into the club, and he's there to ensure, hopefully, that that doesn't happen.
Right.
That's what he's there for. So
It's
don't
true.
say there are no guns and knives in the club.
We check for that, and because there are other clubs there. I'm not the only other club on there. I did my research. They have had shootings in other clubs. I've been there for 4 years, and we've never had one in my club. Or not.
Good. Why?
Because he just now letting younger people inside of his club.
I don't care what the reason is. That's a wonderful thing. But on this night, something happened, Mr. Tatum. On this night, your security didn't work.
Security worked fine.
No, it did not. Sir.
I was a part of the breakup.
Mr. Tatum, on this night, your security was not effective in ensuring that fights didn't break up in the club, and as a result of that, there was a stampede to the door. That is according to your own employee, who wouldn't dare think of lying to me, right?
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I really couldn't deal with the relationship and school and work. You know, we decided to separate at that point.
We did not decide that we were going to separate. She dumped me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shanika Davidson says nightclub owner Charles Tatum owes for medical bills resulting from an accident in his club. Shanika says she tripped while fleeing from a brawl.
You were incapacitated for approximately 2 weeks?
Yes, Your Honor.
And were you able to work during those 2 weeks?
No, Your Honor. They had to find other people.
Okay. How much do you earn a day?
$125 a week.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to contend that this is something that's been started prior to my establishment starting, because we provide security, we provide electronic security. There's a club right down the street from my establishment that's been in business for 15 years. They don't provide no security. They don't even check. These people come to my establishment and react the same exact way that they go down to this other establishment, and because they don't have any security. They don't have a check for weapons. We do. There's no reason for not one person to leave. We have several security guards. I was in there. I broke up that fight. I was there when the mirror fell off the wall. The people run because that's what they do normally at the other club, because they don't know. They don't know where they have guns. They don't realize that they're in an establishment that can provide security. If they're running out of security.
Mr. Tatum.
Yes, ma'am.
Your argument is foolish, sir.
And there's no tear in that carpet.
And I don't believe that, sir. I believe this lady when she says that there was a tear in the carpeting, that it was smoothed over when she went. It was different when she went back to the club last week, different from the way it was on the night of April 30th. And I believe that there was some alteration. I don't believe you, Mr. Tatum, that you didn't fix the tear. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,500, which is 10 times your actual damages, which were 125 times 2, which is $250 for the 2 weeks that you were out of work. I've made that times 10. That means 10 times your actual damages, $2,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Mr. Tatum has a really bad attitude, and I did not want to discuss my injuries because I knew he wouldn't be a reasonable person, because he is not a reasonable person.
She lied. She was a liar.
And it was 2 or 3 fights, because my cousin was the one who was fighting some of them.
I think she's a liar. This is simple. You know, if she'd done that, she'd done it on her own. It was no negligence on my part or my people's part.
If he has adequate security, I've only seen 2 security guards there. One that checks you when you come in, and him waiting at the door to let you out when you go out.
We just need to keep, people need to go to church and learn to tell the truth.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Ramsey versus Chapman, step forward, please.
24-year-old student Christopher Ramsey is suing his ex-fiancée, 21-year-old student Antoinette Chapman, for her tuition and the cost of living expenses. Christopher says Antoinette used him.
Mr. Ramsey, Miss Chapman was your girlfriend, and you lived together for a while, according to your complaint. It is your claim that she owes you money for support. She agreed to support you for your final year in college.
Yes.
Okay. When did you and Miss Chapman start to live together?
May 2003.
And how long had you dated before that?
About 3 years before that.
Were you both juniors in college at the time when you moved in May of 2003?
I was a junior and she was a senior.
Tell me about your agreement, Mr. Ramsey, and why you made the agreement.
We decided that I would sit out of school for 2 semesters, and I would work 2 jobs, which I did. I worked approximately about 75 hours a week to support her while she went through school.
While she completed her senior year?
Yes.
Was that because you both ran out of money, or there wasn't enough money for both of you to go to school?
It was just an easier situation if one of us worked and one of us went to school, and it was fine because we planned on getting married.
Prior to May of 2003, had Miss Chapman been employed?
Yes, she was working at the Holiday Inn.
As what?
She did housekeeping there.
And after you made this agreement with her, did she continue to work?
Yes, she did.
Who was paying your tuition?
I had some financial aid, and any other expenses came out of whatever money we had in the household.
So what happened, Miss Chapman?
I was working still, and between school and work, it got really stressful, and I really couldn't deal with the relationship and school and work, and, you know, we decided to separate at that point.
Okay, and?
I felt that the agreement was for as long as we were together, and since we broke up, the agreement wasn't valid anymore.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
Well, so this is an interesting situation, isn't it?
It's a very interesting situation, and we did not decide that we were going to separate. She dumped me. That's the bottom line.
You have an obligation to support him in his last year of college while he's going to school. You can't say, well, I don't love you anymore, honey. You took care of me, and I finished the school, and here's my diploma. But now I don't love you anymore, and I have no responsibility. That is inequitable, it's unfair, it's unjust enrichment. You have an agreement. He fulfilled his obligation to his detriment by not going to school for that year, and you got to pay him. Minimally, you have to pay him. The maximum allowed by this court is $5,000, and minimally 10 months at $500 a month, which is minimally what he will need to subsist, is, I believe, a fair judgment. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Auto body refinisher Steve Sadler is suing his ex-wife, student Anna Russell, for an unpaid loan and money he claims she stole. Anna says she owes Steve nothing.
Yeah, that's case number 74 on the calendar in the matter of Sadler versus Russell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Sadler, I have a question, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the case. Did that outfit come with a jacket?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay. I just curious.
Actually, I grew out of it.
You grew out of the jacket? Okay. I mean, the outfit looks nice. It just looked as if it wasn't quite finished. Mr. Sadler, according to your complaint, Miss Russell, who is your former wife, borrowed some money from you, and then she took some money that you had given her to hold for safekeeping.
Right.
This was after she and her children, because the two of you have 5 children together. Right. You have children from a previous marriage or relationship, and Miss Russell has children from a previous marriage or relationship, 5 in total, none that are your joint children together. Right. And you were divorced, and then after a couple of months decided that it was a mistake to get divorced, so she moved back in with you, and that, again, didn't work out. But it was during this period after the divorce that is your claim that these loans took place. $900 that you claim was a loan, and $3,600 that you claim she actually stole from you.
Well, more or less.
So give me some dates, Mr. Sadler. When were you married?
2001. December of 2001, I believe. I'm sorry, 2002.
And when were you divorced?
October of 2004.
And when did Miss Russell and her children move back in with you?
In December.
And when did she move out?
End of February. February 23rd, I believe.
Okay. Do you have custody of your children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
I have 3.
Now let's talk about the loan first. The loan was made, according to you, in December of 2004.
Right.
Tell me about the loan.
Basically, she had decided she wanted to go bankrupt so she could be a stay-at-home mother. And so I had her pull $1,500 out of my home equity. And we actually spent $600 of that on bills, and the additional $900 left was supposed to go into savings where I was going to pay an attorney for her to go bankrupt when that time came. But the money never went into savings or checking. She just held on to it, and it went with her when she moved out. And she never did go bankrupt. And she ended up, from what I understand, just used the money to catch up her bills.
Miss Russell, when had you accumulated this debt that inspired you to think about bankruptcy?
Most of my debt was acquired when we were married, and then also in some of our separations. But I've always kept my credit up to par. I mean, I had like 16 revolving accounts, no lates, anything. And during the time that we had discussed me going bankrupt for the family, I didn't pay my bills, and then...
Could you look at me?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a simple question that I asked you.
Okay.
When did you accumulate the debt which inspired you to think about bankruptcy?
Over time, between 2001 through 2004.
Credit cards?
Yes, ma'am.
16 credit cards?
Well, I don't have 16 credit cards. I have 16 revolving accounts. I watch my credit like a hawk.
What do you mean 16 revolving accounts? You have lines of credit at banks?
Well, I don't owe any money to a bank per se unless it's through like Target Visa or Wachovia Visa.
So then why were you contemplating bankruptcy?
When Stephen and I were together, I did spend majority of the time as a homemaker, and then I would, go to school, and I did have odds and end jobs. Stephen works on commission, and this past year it dropped significantly, and we had discussed from talking to neighbors and things like that that maybe I should go bankrupt and it's not so hard, and with the idea that Steve and I would be together forever, I didn't have to worry about having my name on a mortgage or having my name on another car loan, that he would take care of that, and then it would relieve some financial burden for us.
How much in debt were you?
We weren't going to go bankrupt on my car because my mom is actually a co-signer, or actually she's the primary for me on that, and we were going to substantiate.
How much in debt are you?
I don't know. I didn't add it up. I didn't go that far. I owe like maybe $8,000 on my Target Visa, $6,000 on my Wachovia Visa, $2,500 maybe to Rooms to Go, I know Sam's Club, Home Depot. I think I owe them like $2,000.
What do you do for a living?
I am a student. I moved home with my mom and wait tables and things like that.
Your children live with you?
Yes, they do.
You get child support for your children?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I get $125 a week.
When was the last time you held a full-time job?
I'm not really good with dates.
Are you very good with jobs, is the question, Miss Russell.
I'm sorry, what?
You have 2 children?
Yes.
You have 2 children.
Well, that's a full-time job, but I don't really necessarily
How old are your
get paid
children?
for that. I have a 13-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Your 13-year-old takes care of herself?
Himself.
Himself?
2 sons.
5-year-old's in daycare?
Actually, he's in pre-K.
Now we talk about a full-time job. That's
and
what happens
he's
when you...
actually a very difficult child, not that you want to hear it, because he has issues and he sees a psychologist and psychiatrist and otitis media and all those wonderful things.
You still have to work, Miss Russell.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, there are alternatives to stiffing a whole bunch of people who've extended you
I know,
credit.
that's why I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to do it.
Okay, good. Now, let's get to the $900. So far, Mr. Sadler, I haven't heard anything about a loan. I heard that you put $900 away ostensibly for a bankruptcy lawyer.
Right.
And now I hear, Mr. Sadler, that there was discussion between you and your wife.
Right.
Although you were divorced, you were living together as a family again, about the viability of her going bankrupt to relieve the family of all of these bills so that there would sort of be a fresh start. You wouldn't have to be spending your money on that.
Well, it was
right?
more because she didn't want to work full-time.
Listen to me, sir. Were there discussions between the two of you, since you are now together as a family, that this was a viable option to relieve the family of these?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So she was going to stiff the other creditors, but the one creditor that she couldn't stiff was her mother,
Right.
because her mother's the co-signer on the car. You see how you get things, just let people talk and then it all comes together.
And later today,
I ran over there and tried to fish the fish out of the tank with a net and put them into fresh water, hoping that I could save their lives. They were kind of floundering around, but I mean, there was still some sort of life in them.
And they all died.
Yes, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Steve Sadler says ex-wife Anna Russell owes for an unpaid loan to retain a bankruptcy attorney. Steve also claims Anna stole money from him.
Oh, so now you can tell me the story about Mr. Sadler, the $3,600 that you claim Miss Russell stole from you.
Okay, basically I got a lump sum of child support from my first wife. And with her going bankrupt, I had agreed that we would use the money, basically like an investment in our family, to pay down on her car because she was going to keep her car, and that would lower that payment. But the money never got used, and our relationship just kind of went downhill. And basically, I told her, I wanted to put the money in savings account because I wasn't sure where, our relationship was going. And I wasn't going to pay it towards her car if we were going to break up.
Is that what you said to her? At the time you gave her, according to you, the $3,600, you said, I'm not putting it in a checking account. I'm giving it to you to pay off your car. But if we break up, I want you to give me back the money.
Well, that never came out, but, she understood that because she
Don't tell me what she understood.
Well,
this is a court, Mr. Sadler.
It was like this. She had even made a statement to me that, we would discuss it if we decided she was going to use the money for something else other than what we had talked about.
You talked about just paying down the car or paying down the credit cards?
Well, first it was the credit cards, and then she decided to go bankrupt, and then it was, since she was going to still have her car, just use it towards her car.
So she was going to stiff the other creditors, but the one creditor that she couldn't stiff was her mother, because her mother's the co-signer on the car. You see how you get things, just let people talk and then it all comes together. Good thing that they strengthened the bankruptcy laws in this country. Financial planning is not bankruptcy. People sort of think that financial planning is another term for bankruptcy. Okay. How much did you earn last year, sir?
Last year, I earned roughly $45,000.
And how much do you get in child support for your 3 children?
I get, for 3 children, I get $50 a week for 3.
What does your former wife do?
I think she works at a daycare at a gym, but she kind of goes in and out of jobs.
That's the reason you have the custody of your children.
Well, there were other reasons, but okay.
Okay. Does she see her children?
Not anymore. She's actually talking about getting for the summer because she lives in another state.
Well, if she gets them for the summer, sir, if you agree to that, you tell her that you'll give her $50 a week for the 3 children.
Actually, I'm not going to
see
give
how
her...
that flies.
I wasn't going to give her anything.
Right. Now, the $3,600 he gave you, under what circumstances?
I think Stephen felt guilty because when we would break up, he would also spend money, too. And he was taking out a line of credit towards the house. And even though we were a family unit, the money was only going to go towards his bills, but not help me with mine. And I think that he felt guilty, and that he said if he ever did get the money from Misha, which is the back child support, and I did raise the children for that time, that I could have it, because he considered it like free money. I can even remember when I was even at home with him and my mom was on the phone and he was saying if he did get the money, that I could have it. And I was like, Mom, you need to write down this date, because we didn't really know, because we have an up and down relationship. And
I got it, Miss Russell.
Okay. But he did give me the money and I didn't steal it.
What did you do with it?
I paid it towards my bills. And just to let you know, I didn't just want to go bankrupt. It was, he was even saying, you need to go bankrupt before these laws come into effect. It's going to be harder.
Well, whatever.
But I do
In any event, Mr. Sadler, I don't hear anything about a loan, sir. I don't hear anything about a loan for the $900. And I read your complaint very carefully, which I don't buy. I'm going to tell you why I don't buy it. Your complaint, which you swore to, says, she wanted to file bankruptcy and asked for my help, so I agreed to loan her $900 to retain an attorney. Well, that's not true. That's even not what you testified to today, right? So that's false. Then you say, in January, I received $3,600 in back child support from my first wife. I cashed the check. I was afraid if I put the money directly into my checking account, I would spend it. So I gave the entire sum to Anna to put aside for us.
Right.
Now listen to me. In the previous paragraph of your complaint, you say she wanted to file for bankruptcy because she had spent money that she shouldn't have. And then you went on to tell me I agreed to loan her the $900, and then she went on a spending spree and spent approximately $5,000 on her credit card because she knew she was going to file a bankruptcy, so she might as well work up the credit cards, right? Now, a month later, as irresponsible as that is, right? So you would say this is irresponsible, right?
Right.
She was going to file bankruptcy, which means she didn't have money. So she said, I'm going to go out and jack up my credit cards, probably buying things, Christmas presents and things like that, month of December, right, sir?
Well,
but according to you, she did that, and that was financially irresponsible. So the next month, you get the $3,600, and since you didn't trust yourself by putting it in your checking account, you gave it to Miss Responsibility. to hold for us.
Steve Sadler says ex-wife Anna Russell owes for an unpaid loan to retain a bankruptcy attorney. Steve also claims Anna stole money from him.
I don't buy it, Mr. Sadler. I don't buy the $900 loan to your former wife, and I don't buy the fact that you gave her this money to hold for us. I believe that you gave her this money to pay down her credit card debt, and she owes you absolutely nothing. Zippo, nada, goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's about getting back what I felt like should have been returned to me in the event our family fell apart.
He actually had me served with papers trying to have me arrested, saying that I stole the money.
We've broke up, God, probably 16 times in the last 4 years, and I'm not about to say it's the last time.
I'm currently reading the book, He's Just Not That Into You, and if I had to give my own words of it, I would have to say he's just not that into you if he sues you and tries to have you arrested.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lee versus Gann, step forward, please.
20-year-old student Jonathan Lee is suing his former friend, 20-year-old student Christopher Gann, for killing his fish when he dumped soap in his freshwater aquarium. Christopher says it was an accident.
Your first name is Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're Christopher?
Christopher.
And you used to be roommates?
Yes.
How long were you roommates?
About a year.
You go to school?
Yes, ma'am.
What year are you in?
I'm a third year, ma'am.
I too am a third year.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Computer science.
You don't want to be a veterinarian, do you?
No.
Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am.
Christopher destroyed your fish tank.
Yes, ma'am.
And based upon those relics there, it was a big fish tank.
Yes, ma'am.
And he destroyed your fish tank with soapy water.
Yes, ma'am.
Killed all the fish.
Yes, ma'am.
He says it was the fish's fault.
More or less, ma'am.
They were in the wrong place in the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
And he tripped over them. Is that right, Christopher? I read your answer.
I kind of bumped into the tank, which
because you say in your answer, the tank and the fish was placed in a high-traffic zone.
Yeah, I have a set of photographs with the picture of where the tank is, and it's
I'd like to see that. Oh. Okay. When did this happen?
Sometime in November.
Jonathan, when did it happen?
November 18th, 2004, ma'am.
And you came home and found everything destroyed.
Yes,
is that
ma'am.
right? Okay. And this is where the fish tank was?
Yes.
And it wasn't on wheels, was it?
It's on cinder blocks.
It's not one of these remote-controlled fish tanks that move around?
No.
How long have you been living in this apartment?
Almost a year.
And in the year, has the fish tank been in the same spot?
It was placed in the end of summer, and then it happened in November.
So it's been there for a couple of months?
A few months, yes.
Stationary?
Stationary.
And the only thing that's moved is you?
Is me, yes.
You get my drift where
right.
I'm going.
Oh, and I wrote in...
So why don't you tell me, Christopher, how this happened and why you don't think that you're responsible to your former roommate for replacing his fish tank?
First off, I have a copy of our rental agreement which states that no pets should be allowed and that no things should be placed in hallways that obstruct movement. So what had happened was I'd filled this bowl with soap, concentrated hand soap and water, and I was walking from the kitchen to the garage because I wanted to spot clean my shoes. So as I was walking with this bowl, I saw my roommate who crossed from downstairs into this pseudo hallway because it's the main walkway from rooms entrance to the kitchen. So I took the bowl away to get it away from him, and then he made a sudden move to like try to mess with me, and I kind of stepped back and I banged my elbow into the fish tank, dropping the bowl into the tank. And that's what happened.
Do you have any witnesses who were there that day?
Actually, no one witnessed it, so no one saw it.
Well, the other roommate was there, according to him.
He didn't tell me anything beyond that they were horsing around. That's it.
Tell me what happened when you got home.
When I got home, I came in from the garage and basically saw him and another roommate removing bubbles from the tank. And I was kind of shocked. And I go, what happened? He said, I spilled soap into your tank. How'd you do it? I was horsing around. Well, what are you doing? Well, I'm moving the bubbles. So I ran over there and tried to fish the fish out of the tank with a net and put them into fresh water, hoping that I could save their lives. They were kind of floundering around, but I mean, there was still some sort of life in them.
How many fish did you have in the tank?
I had citlets and plecos and a gourami, ma'am. I was trying to breed them.
So you had 6 fish?
I believe I had 7, 9, 10 fish and 2 snails, ma'am.
And they all died?
Yes, ma'am.
Christopher, listen to me carefully, sir. Whose fault do you think it is that all these fish died?
I think it should be, it's mutual, like, he shouldn't have had the tank there in the first place.
The tank's been there for months, sir. When for the first time did you complain to him that the tank was there?
I didn't want to complain to him.
So you never complained to him?
No.
When for the first time did you complain to him that he was in violation of the lease because he had pets in the apartment?
After he trying to come after me for $400.
But not before?
No.
So that's a lot of baloney. What you're saying to me really is, it's my fault and I'm trying to find some reason to avoid responsibility. So far, I haven't heard it's my fault because I was horsing around with my roommate.
It is my fault.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $330. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Dental hygienist Sarah Beasley and her daughter, 16-year-old Jennifer, are suing 18-year-old warehouse worker Ronald Williams for crashing into the side of Jennifer's Pontiac Grand Am. Ronald says the driver, Jennifer's boyfriend, cut him off.
This is case number 150 on the calendar in the matter of Beasley versus Williams. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Miss Beasley, you weren't there when this accident occurred with your car, is that right?
No.
Your daughter was driving your car or her boyfriend?
It's her car, and he was driving.
Okay. So you're here because you want to get some money for the damage to your car. Why don't you sit down for a moment, and I may ask you to come back. It's your car?
Yes.
How old are you?
16.
So your mother paid for the car?
No, I did.
You did?
Yes.
Good. How much did you pay for the car?
$2,200.
Where'd you get the money from?
I have a job.
And you allowed your boyfriend to drive the car?
I did.
Okay, and what date did this accident happen?
March 13th.
What kind of car was it?
A Grand Am.
Did you have insurance?
Yes.
Did you have collision insurance?
I have minimum coverage.
Okay, so who's going to speak for the two of you?
I am.
You were in the passenger seat. Tell me what happened.
We were driving down Troy Street, and as we were driving, we noticed that we had a problem earlier in the evening.
With who?
Ron.
You know him?
Well, we didn't.
What drew you to his attention if you hadn't seen him before?
He was drag racing with other cars.
Your Honor, that's not true.
We noticed that he was racing other cars, and we thought it was funny, so at the next light we took off, and I guess he was threatened that our car took off faster than his. And once we passed through a light, but he got stuck at the red light, so we went downtown, and we didn't see him downtown after that until we were leaving.
Tell me about it when you saw him again that evening.
He was at a red light when we saw him, and we were approaching the red light. As we were approaching, the light turned green, and we went on through the light, and then he took off, and later down the road, he caught up with us, and he swerved at the car. We realized it was getting...
Your Honor,
I don't want to hear you yet. You'll have a chance.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
We realized that it was getting a little too out of control, so we decided that we would go home. And as we were heading home, we realized that he continued to follow us.
Now, Miss Beasley, was your boyfriend driving in a way that your mother wouldn't approve of?
At the beginning of the night, yes.
It's a good thing you said that. Now, did you tell your mother before today that your boyfriend was driving your car in an inappropriate manner?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Is that right? So that now, after you were playing around with him, I don't know what you were doing, you decided that you had enough and you were going home.
Yes.
What happened?
Well, we were driving down Troy, and we turned our left-hand turn signal on to turn onto...
Which are you? Are you pink or green?
We're the pink.
You're making a left-hand turn from the wrong lane.
No, it's a two-way road.
Oh, it's a two-way road?
Yes.
So what you're telling me is he came around and he was going the wrong way on that lane? Is that what you're telling me?
No, he was driving behind us, and as we went to make a left-hand turn, he tried to pass us.
Okay, now let me look at yours. Quite frankly, I'm looking at yours, and you're going to have to explain that to me. She's the pink car, is that
yes.
right?
I'm the green car. I was behind them.
Right.
And they put their left turn signal on under the overpass, And then they got onto the shoulder of the road to make that left-hand turn because they didn't slow down.
Yes.
He had his left turning signal on. I went to pass, and then he cut across.
Was he drunk?
I couldn't tell you.
Was he cited for being drunk, Mr. Williams?
I couldn't tell you, Your Honor.
Mr. Williams, somebody would have to be either drunk or psychotic for me to attribute the kind of behavior that you have attributed to him, sir. Were you drag racing that night?
No, Your Honor.
I don't believe you.
My mother was sick with bronchitis. I was running to the 24-hour pharmacy for her. I was on my way back home from the downtown area.
Where's your mother?
She's at home.
What time did you go out to the pharmacy for your mother?
8:45, 9 o'clock at night.
And how far is the pharmacy from your house?
A good 15-minute drive.
And what time was this accident? What time was the accident?
Around 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. It was around about that time.
Well, what were you doing, sir, between 8:45 and 9 o'clock and 10:30? It's an hour and a half. How far is the pharmacy from your house?
Good 15-minute, 20.
That's what you just told me.
Right.
So what were you doing out at 10:30 at night?
We went to the pharmacy. They said that her prescription wasn't ready. We started heading back, and then that's me and my witness, Richard.
Yes.
We started heading back, and then that's when we seen them on our way back on 31. We stopped at a stoplight. They pulled up. He threw the car in neutral, was revving it up. They were laughing. They thought it was funny. We started driving. He's hitting the gas and the brakes, trying to get me to race him. I rolled down. I had Spud roll down the window, and I told them that I'm not wasting my time on it. So we continued on down the road.
Mr. Williams, this happened at 10:30, an hour and a half later.
Right.
Why didn't you go home and say to your mother, the prescription wasn't ready, so instead of waiting, I came home? That would have brought you home at 9:15.
I don't even know what time. I don't even know if it happened about 10:30. Nobody had a watch or anything. I'm not sure exactly what time it happened, so we're just going on hearsay.
But it was that time because when the accident occurred, I called my mom and I did look at the cell phone to see what time it was.
Well, you're not sure, so she's sure. So if you're not sure, she's sure.
That's like taking their word, saying I was racing, and then me not saying
No. I didn't say anything about racing, Mr. Williams.
Okay.
I said to you, if your mother has bronchitis and you're going to the drugstore for her at 8:45 and the drugstore is 15 minutes away, I don't know what you'd be doing out at 10:30 at night without the prescription.
Waiting for it to get done.
Nah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He wasn't driving crazy, so we wouldn't be here.
I want to explain something to you. You should be driving sufficiently behind him so that you don't hit his car. Do I make myself clear, or do you want me to explain it to you again?
Sure.
Good.
And later today,
I went for an overnight trip. I'm there a week. My mother has to come stay with my son. I'm lucky I had a job when I came back. He's the snowmobiler, not me. This
job.
man...
I'm speaking.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Jennifer Beasley says 18-year-old Ronald Williams owes for crashing into the side of her Pontiac Grand Am. Ronald says the driver, Jennifer's boyfriend, was trying to race him.
Why didn't your insurance company cover this damage?
Because the car was insured for my mother and not for myself.
That's not true.
Shh. So is what you're telling me you're not supposed to be driving that car?
Yes, Your Honor.
So if you're not supposed to be driving the car, Mr. Williams, why were you driving it?
She gave me permission to run to the pharmacy for her.
Listen, if your mother wanted to insure you, it would probably increase her premiums on the car, which is why she chooses not to insure you, which is why she indicates to her insurance company that you will not be driving the car. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I wasn't there, so I don't know whose fault it is. All I know is one thing. If you hadn't done the wrong thing by getting behind the wheel of a car that you knew you had no right to get behind, we wouldn't be standing here today because your insurance would have paid for it. Can't
I
do the
also
wrong
believe
thing.
that if he wasn't driving like, I don't know, if he wasn't driving crazy, so we wouldn't be here
I
either.
want to explain something to you. If you're driving right behind him, you should be driving sufficiently behind him so that you don't hit his car. And if he pulls off to the side of the road, you should be driving slowly enough Slowly, because you said you saw him before and he was trying to drag race you before. Is that what you told me, Mr. Williams? Is that what you told me?
Yes, that's what I told you.
Then if that's what you told me, and if you wanted to avoid a problem, then you're not driving up his behind so that you can't stop your car if he goes off to the shoulder and then makes a quick left turn, which I don't believe. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do I make myself clear, or you want me to explain it to you again? Clear?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. How much did it cost you to fix the car?
We haven't fixed it yet. We have estimates.
Can I see them, please? Miss Beasley, you could step up now, because I don't want to hear from him because I...
We also have a letter that
here's one.
said that the car wasn't insured at all at the time of the accident.
Car wasn't insured at all?
Yes.
How could you be driving a car that's not insured at all?
That's funny because the insurance company sent us a check in the mail because they dropped all the cars and we had to get more insurance on the cars from another company. So the car was insured.
Our letter is from his insurance company.
I have photos also, Your Honor.
Can I see the photos? Sure.
Thank you. That's it? You don't want to see these?
Yeah, they're right.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, there was no policy in force on the date of this accident, and the policy has been rescinded. And I have photographs which clearly indicate that you hit them on the driver's side door. Mr. Williams, you've got to do the right thing, sir. If you don't do the right thing, you end up on the short end of the stick, sir. And if you have no insurance, or if the car had insurance but you weren't supposed to be driving, then you shouldn't have been driving. And you weren't so worried about your mother because you went out at 8:45 and you were still trolling around at 10:30 without the prescription. So, judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $1,602. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you. He rolled the window down and tried to talk to us, and we rolled our window up.
They're hitting the gas, trying to get me to race, roll down their window, and I was like, I'm not wasting my time with you, so.
He's just saying stuff about how he needed to go home and get a different car that was faster.
I feel I have no responsibility. Her boyfriend was driving recklessly, and that's what they get.
I learned my lesson that I'm going to be the only one driving my car.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lesser versus Kaufman. Step forward, please.
Commercial Vehicle Inspector Landis Lesser is suing her ex-boyfriend, contractor Chip Kaufman, for the cost of a helicopter rescue during a snowmobile trip.
Miss Lesser, Mr. Kaufman was your boyfriend, and according to what I read, uncross your arm, sir. According to what I read, you and the defendant decided to go on a snowmobiling vacation, an overnight, last December. You did that, and when you got to around where the campsite was, where you were supposed to spend the night, there was a blizzard, and you got snowed in. You called for a helicopter to rescue you. Helicopter came ultimately and rescued you. You want Mr. Kaufman to pay for the helicopter bill. Mr. Kaufman says he owes you nothing. You decided to call for a helicopter. You called. It just happened to be a helicopter that was being piloted by an ex-boyfriend of yours. He didn't ask you to call for a helicopter. He was just as happy to wait there until the situation resolved itself. You wanted to get out, pay for it, right?
Yes.
If I'm wrong, tell me.
That was it.
On what date in December did you decide to take this snowmobiling excursion?
That would have been on December 26th. Chip had brought up the fact that he wanted to go on this snowmobile trip.
Chip.
And that he was going to call, actually the people in Deadwood are friends of his.
I don't care. You went on the 26th.
Okay, we went on the 27th.
Fine.
He brought it up
27.
Yes.
Okay. And how far did you go?
We rode in 25 miles.
When did it start to snow?
That evening after we got into our cabin and went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, there was a lot of snow. The day that we went in, there was no snow.
Had you called to check on the weather?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I'm not a snowmobiler. He owns the snowmobiles. He planned this trip. He's like, hey, let's go in.
How old are you?
I am 39 years old.
Miss Lesser, if you're going on a snowmobile trip, in what state is this?
Idaho. I have never been
Idaho.
on a trip.
And it snows a lot in Idaho?
Not like this. I have never seen snow like this.
So what happened on the 28th?
On the 28th, I woke up and I said, Chip, it snowed a lot. He laid in bed. I would say another 45 minutes. He got up and he's like, oh no, it was incredible the amount of snow that they got in that area overnight.
When you slept in the cabin, was there a fire?
Yes.
So you were warm?
Yes.
And did you have food?
Yes, at the lodge they had food.
Good, fine. And when did you finally call for this helicopter?
The date would have been Friday the 2nd of January, 2004.
Okay, and from the 28th when you were there, did you sleep in the cabin?
Yes.
And you had food in the lodge?
Yes.
So there was no emergency?
Correct.
So what made you call the helicopter?
Because it kept snowing and snowing. Chip had a friend, Jeff, that is a hotshot snowmobile rider that they ride together, and he could not make it in to rescue us. The groomer was broke down.
But you were safe in the cabin.
But we've missed a week of work, ma'am, and I have a 15-year-old son.
Well, you both missed a week of work, and so you had to get home for your son. Now, what happened when you said you wanted to call this helicopter? What did Mr. Kaufman say?
We had discussed it after these parties tried to rescue us, and we had both agreed that we would dispatch the helicopter.
And how much was the helicopter?
$1,710.
Okay. And why do you think that he should pay this whole amount, Miss Lesser?
I went for an overnight trip. I'm there a week. I miss a week of work. My mother has to come stay with my son.
So?
I'm lucky I had a job when I came back.
So?
He's the snowmobiler, not me. He owns the snowmobiles. He knew the people. This was all his idea. I was along for the ride. We had been having trouble. We went through the holiday season, got along pretty good. He wanted to do this.
Gotcha.
I went with him because
so I
he wanted
understand
to
that that's
do
your
this.
rationale. Now, Mr. Kaufman, you're going to explain to me, sir, why you shouldn't be responsible for this airlift.
Well, because Miss Lesser and I didn't discuss the agreement on this helicopter deal. It was all her idea.
How much money did you give her, sir?
I gave her $350 so far.
You said $250.
No, I said $350.
Did you? Maybe I read it wrong.
Maybe
He's only paid $250.
$350, Your Honor.
Yes, you said you gave her $350 in cash. Can you prove it to me that you gave her $350 instead of $250?
Other than what I documented for my first payment was just approximately the end of March. And
how much did you give her?
$250 there.
Yeah.
And then on April 9th, another $100. And then on and then that was it.
And when did he give you, according to you, $250?
I have a calendaring of every time that I have talked to Chip. This started, I have certified letters.
You're bothering me.
Okay.
You're annoying me.
All right. I talked to him on March 28th.
Miss Lesser.
He paid me on the 17th of April $250, which I went out to his work and picked up because he has a problem.
Fine. Now you answered my question.
Okay.
Okay. You may have been a guest on the job. I'm speaking. You may have been a guest on the trip. However, you have the same ability that he does to call and check on the weather for the trip.
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't do that. The two of you chose, according to you, to get out because you had been out of work for a week, plus the fact that you had a 15-year-old son who required care. And it would seem to me that this was an unanticipated expense. So irrespective of the fact that you were a guest and there was a trip on him, this was an unanticipated cost. It would seem to me that I agree with you that you both discussed being airlifted out of there because you had been there already almost a week longer than you anticipated, and that it's a cost that should be borne between the two of you. So half the cost for him after he's paid his $250 is $725. I'm entering a judgment accordingly. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused when they step out.
17-year-old student Joey Kibble and her mother, Drew, are suing the mother of Joey's former friend, homemaker Mary Kilmer, for giving away their furniture. Mary is countersuing for unpaid rent and mental distress.
This is case number 34 on the calendar in the matter of Kibble versus Kilmer. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Miss Kibble?
I'm 17.
You're a mother? According to what I read, your mother moved out of state. Is that right? Where had you been living?
I was living with my cousin.
In what state?
In Indiana.
And where did you move to?
I moved from Chicago to Portage, Indiana in February.
And how far is that away from where your daughter was living?
Prior, in Illinois, I was about a 20-minute ride.
Let's start over again. Were you and your daughter living together?
No, ma'am. No.
Why not?
I was waiting to relocate into Indiana from Illinois. And she was attending school there and wanted to keep attending school there.
In Indiana?
In Indiana.
Okay. Had you been living with your daughter in Indiana?
Not
Or was
at
your
that
daughter
time.
living with you at any time?
No, ma'am.
Who were you living with?
I first lived with my Aunt Angela, and then...
Until you were how old?
Until I was about 15, maybe 16.
So you never lived with your mother?
Not in Indiana.
Anywhere?
Yes. When
Where?
In Las Vegas.
When you were how old?
From the time I was born until I was 14.
After you were 14, you lived with other relatives?
Yes.
You want to tell me why?
We don't have the best relationship.
You have any siblings?
I have a little sister.
Who does your sister live with?
My mom.
According to what I read, there came a time when you moved in with the defendant because you were a very good friend of her daughter's.
We were best friends.
And you lived with her for a while, and then there was an incident where you had a falling out with her daughter. You left.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that you didn't get your furniture. You didn't take it with you when you left, and they disposed of your furniture. So you want the value of your furniture.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you move in with Miss Kilmer and her daughter?
The end of August, beginning of September 2003.
And how long did you live with them?
About 4 to 5 months, maybe.
Is that right? How long did she live with you?
Until January. I don't remember if it was the beginning or the end.
It was the beginning.
So about 5 months. How were you supporting yourself?
I get Social Security.
How much do you get?
$756 a month.
Are you an emancipated minor?
No, my aunt just gave me my money because she was my legal guardian, and she's still filed at the Social Security office as my guardian.
Okay. Now, what kind of financial arrangement did you make with Miss Kilmer?
$200 a month for food, electricity, water, everything like that.
For everything?
Everything.
Did you pay her every month?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay her in check or cash?
Cash.
And what did you do with the rest of the money?
I bought clothes, food, things I needed.
What happened in January?
In January, me and Margie were hanging out at a friend's house. His mother's ring came up missing. It was in the bathroom. We had all stopped in the house to use the bathroom, and we'd left. And then we had come back later on, and we were hanging out, and his mom came up to us and said, "My ring's gone." We all checked our stuff just in case it accidentally dropped in. I personally know I didn't have anything to do with that ring. I didn't touch it. I didn't even see it. And Margie was upset, and she was accusing me of taking it, trying to find out what happened. Because Ryan, that's the friend we were at, he called and told her that detectives would be coming over to our house. And she was really upset. She was like freaking out, banging things. I asked her what was wrong, and it escalated from there into a verbal confrontation. She called me some names. I called her some names. She threw a bottle of hair conditioner at me. I had a notebook in my hand. I threw it back at her. She walked up to me and slapped me. In self-defense, I grabbed her by her hair and hit her. Then her mom stood up and started yelling to stop. Her father stepped in between us. She kept trying to go around him. I stepped off to the side and away, and I said, "I didn't steal anything, that's a lie." Maybe I added some stuff to that, but that's the gist of it. And they said, "Leave." I went downstairs, I got my stuff, I called my friend Veronica, and I said, "Just come get me, I'll explain to you later."
And
she
this
came and got
was
me.
when in January?
The beginning. I had just given the Kilmers the rent for the month of January a few days before.
And when did you come back for your, because you had some furniture that was stored in the basement?
Yes.
What kind of furniture?
2 nightstands, headboard, brand new mattresses, bed frame, and a dresser and a mirror.
Where had that come from?
My money, I had saved it up, my Social Security, so I could have some nice things.
But your furniture had to be stored because you had furniture in your room?
Yes.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Well, there's been a long-going friendship with Joey and Margie. She needed a place to stay. Her aunt had kicked her out. Her cousin had kicked her out. She wasn't able to live with her mother, so we took her in, treated her like family, made arrangements for her to pay rent. She, in December, had given us $100, saying she was going to be gone for part of the month, and she couldn't give us all of it. In January, she had given, I think she had given my husband some money. We were going through some problems. I had lost my job. I had asked him to leave. When he had come back to get some furniture for where he's staying.
So 1 second. We're talking about the rent. She moved in August. Of 2003. Who did you give the money to?
Either one.
So when you say you think she may have given your husband some money, it's possible that she gave him the rent.
Sure.
Because that takes care of your counterclaim. You're counterclaiming for rent. If she gave your husband rent, she doesn't owe you any rent, right?
Well, but he said he didn't get any money.
Yeah, how do I know that? How do I know that? If you're going through difficult financial times, how do I know that he didn't get the money and spend it?
Probably
and
did.
another thing, Miss Kilmer, if you didn't get any rent from her and that was your agreement, then why did you let her stay with you for 5 months?
She had nowhere else to go.
I don't know if I buy that, because if you were doing it out of the goodness of your heart, you wouldn't have charged her any rent.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen, you're not the mother of the year. You don't leave your 14-year-old daughter to fend for herself, and I don't care what kind of disagreement you have with her. We understand each other?
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Joey Kibble says her former friend's mother, Mary Kilmer, gave away her furniture. Mary claims when Joey moved out, she abandoned the property.
Okay, I'm dismissing your counterclaim because I don't believe that she didn't pay the $200 either to you or your husband. So let's move on with, where's her furniture?
My ex-husband has it, and I haven't had any contact with him.
Well, how did he get it?
Came to the house to get some furniture. Shortly after she moved out, it was in February, he had come to the house to get some of his things after I had him removed from the house.
You had him removed from the house by the police?
Yes.
And when he came back to get his things, did he come back with the police?
No.
He came back by himself?
With some friends.
And how did it end up that he went into the basement and took her furniture?
He needed something to sleep on. I had no idea how long it was going to be there. It was stored there. We tried to get in touch with her.
Ma'am? That's not true.
Just a minute. Okay. Listen, you're not the mother of the year. You don't leave your 14-year-old daughter to fend for herself just because she's got $700 a month to take care of herself. And I don't care what kind of disagreement you have with her at age 14. We understand each other?
Yes.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, I had told Joey when she called to get her furniture and her belongings that Frank had her furniture, and I would
I'm talking about before you gave away her furniture to your ex-husband. I don't care whether he slept on the floor or whether he slept on nails. Why do I care what he slept on? You have no right to give away her furniture. That's outrageous. You have a bill for the furniture?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please.
I also have receipts for my mattresses. That's the mattress. These are the receipts.
You have furniture. The furniture she gave away, she had absolutely no right to give away any of your furniture. So, $561.72 with tax. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're talking about mattresses, which were another $630. So that's what you owe her. You can't give away somebody else's property without notice. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,191. I'm dismissing your counterclaim because I don't believe you when you say she didn't pay rent. I believe she paid rent. I also am going to award her the $200 for her January rent because I find that she did, in fact, pay you your January rent, whether she paid it to you or to your husband. That's $1,391 since you threw her out in January. She couldn't live there. $1,391 for the plaintiff. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
We did what we could for 9 months of hell having her live with us.
I think this is all ridiculous and it could have been avoided.
The fighting with my daughter in the kitchen, the fist fight.
I was attacked and it was completely self-defense.
Certain things she said to me, the B word, the C word, the A word, you name it.
I think it's a big joke and I think she's a liar. We can sit here and call each other liars all day, but I know the truth and that's what matters.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Shore versus Moore, step forward.
Truck driver Donna Shore is suing her daughter's boyfriend, truck driver Jason Moore, for the cost of a waterbed and a cell phone bill. Jason says he owes nothing.
Mrs. Shore, the defendant is your daughter's boyfriend, and I assume from everybody's position that this is your daughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that if this is your daughter, you and your daughter are not on good speaking terms.
Not right now, no.
And this is your...
My husband, her stepfather.
Okay. Boyfriend, according to you, owes you for the balance on a waterbed that you sold to them.
Yes, ma'am.
And also for a cell phone bill that he promised to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Moore says that the waterbed is between you and your daughter. He had nothing to do with that arrangement. And he's got a sort of interesting defense for the cell phone bill, which I will get to when we get to him. Okay? Good. The defendant and your daughter lived with you for a period of time, I gather. Is that right? When did they live with you?
From the beginning of October 2003 till the beginning of December 2003.
Why?
At the time, Jason was having trouble, you know, on his job. They were not giving him enough miles driving the truck so that he was making no money. My granddaughter was in St. Louis with her father.
Not their child together?
No.
Your daughter has a child with somebody else who was with her father?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And Jordan could not come home because of the apartment that they were living in. I was told that she had no bed. I was never physically in the apartment. But DCFS went and checked out the apartment.
Department of Children and Family Services.
Yes. And we're told that Jordan could not come home as long as they lived there. So we let them move in with us so that we could get Jordan home. We were hoping that, you know, they would turn their lives around, get everything straightened out.
How long had Jordan been living with her father?
She went down in July. She was supposed to come home between 2 weeks and a month after she went down there.
And did her father seek custody of her? Is that why there was an investigation by Department of Children and Family Services?
I'm not sure about that. I know there were other circumstances involved, which I don't know if I should mention or not.
Go ahead.
There were accusations made. They were eventually...
Unfounded.
Right, unfounded, yes.
Where is Jordan now?
She's with Jason and Tara, I assume.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What happened in October of 2003 with regard to the telephone?
My husband and I did not have a home phone. We're over-the-road truck drivers. We had cell phones. When Tara and Jason came and moved in with us, he was going to work with us. He was going to be on the road, needed to keep in contact with Tara. Tara needed to be able to, you know, if Jordan got hurt, Jordan needed the doctor or something, to be able to get a hold of somebody.
Jordan came back to live with you at that point?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So we went and got the phones. They said they didn't have the money.
So you put them on your account?
Yes, ma'am.
And they promised to pay the bill, I assume?
Yes, ma'am.
That's right, correct?
So kind of, yes. Yes, ma'am.
So you got them the phones?
Yes, ma'am. But the next day, he took it back and upgraded it because it wasn't fancy enough.
Is that right, sir?
Both phones were upgraded the next day, yes.
Why did you do that?
Because the phones they give you with the plan were very cheaply made, so it would not have been worth it. Why not pay the extra $30 and get a better phone with better warranty?
So you paid the $30?
I did, yes.
Okay, fine. So you didn't have money for phones, but you had money to upgrade the
Yes,
phones?
I did have money for phones.
Well, then why did you have her put the phones in her account?
I didn't want to get the phone in her name. I'd already borrowed the money from my boss, and she knew of that. She thought it'd be better for me to save my money and get, instead of me getting one phone for myself, to get a phone for her daughter, too. So they came
and you said okay?
Yeah, they came to me with this plan,
okay.
Yes.
So you said okay, with the understanding that you would pay for the service?
I was going to pay half the service, yes.
And the daughter was going to pay half the service? Was she working at the time?
At the time, yes, when we got the phones.
Now, at some point, you stopped paying for the phone. Is that right?
When I got the second bill, yes.
Why?
Because by the time we got the first bill, she had done quit her job, and she knew we was financially tight. So I paid the first bill, and when I got the second bill, I told her I couldn't pay that. It's just too much. And she had agreed to have the phone service canceled, and I'd pay the disconnect fee for each phone.
So did you pay the bill?
She would never show me a bill.
Well, now we'll show you the bill. Can I see the bill, please?
Yes, ma'am.
The bills never came to my name.
No, I'm going to show you.
And she would hide them from us.
Just a second. Oh, no. Just a second. She's not hiding, sir.
Oh,
she
you
doesn't
don't
want to
even
hide
know.
them. Let me just see the bills. You say you didn't pay the bills because you didn't get the bills.
I had the bills. What the bill was due, it came on my cell phone. At the time the phone shop, the bill was $213.74.
Okay, well...
The bill was due in December, 12/11 of '03.
No, on December 19th, sir, it was $449.03.
Well, that's not what the phone says.
Well,
that came from Verizon.
Sir.
Okay. I'd never seen this. She'd never show us bills.
I want you to see it. No, give it back to him, please.
I've seen it. I believe you.
Give it back to him.
I'll look at it.
There you go. Enjoy.
And did you use these phones after January?
No, they were turned off.
Stand up. You are both testifying that in the month of January, you did not use these phones.
The phones were set off at the beginning of January.
So that this last bill, can I see that, please? This last bill dated
Would probably be the remainder of December and January.
December.
वैसे हाल कल जुम्मा किवें गुजरे
जुम्मा यार चंगा गुजरे अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह टुर फिर थे इधे आया वहां तेडो मैं था तू आवे गए ना दुकान बंद ही पहले टाइम बड़ा वाल गया वहां बड़ा मैं वाला यहाँ 3 बजे बड़ा आई दुकान बंद है पीछे गया वहां मैं वाल मैं गया इनके काट खाऊंगा इन काट दिया मरे ने पुटे ने वदा वाला मैं बनी 4:30 बजे 4:30 बजे 2.5 किलो का एक काट के ना 2.5 किलो पूरा है वाला जरा ना टुरजे फिरजे वदा मैं उठा ये थियावा डर पे कम देख यार जी ले आदि पिया वक्त इड्डे देख कम देख
भी अच्छा कट केदा
कट कबाड़ी ना उठाई पीछे रह गए सारा डे 4:30 बजे मैं निकल आया वाला
पिछो बैठे रह
गए पीछे पता क्या बने मेरा मैं 4:30 बजे आया वाला दुकान मेरा खुली भी तकरीबन मैं ध्यान हां मैं दिखता नहीं ध्यान
कितने बजे आई
4:30 बजे
बंद है
पीछे मैं ध्यान नहीं देता मैं भी गया वहां पे
दुकान खुली है 8:30 बजे
मैं वाला वाल गई दे ये कानूनी है बरेच कानूनी है वो वाला जान चाहता नहीं वाला वदा उठाओ ने पीछे वाती दे बैठे हैं अपने डेरे ते उतो बल्ले ना पीछे खाकू इवें क्रॉस की तमी मोले में ना बंद है
हां बाले 8:30 बजे खुली है दुकान
पीछे मैं वाला बैठा रहे यहां जो माहौल शाहौल लेखन की ते इडे शादी है कोई हमसाए दी मैं सुनी ते दी शादी कल के टाइम तो भुगता यार मियां मैंने पहले भुगताया
हां भाई
मैंने बाद गई तू
इधर हां इधर सब काटा कर रही तो
कहीं ना मैं शादी ते पुत्र ते प्यो ते दादा पे भुगता है मेरा पुत्र मजाक नहीं
कसम है
हां
क्या
क्यों तेरा कर रहा है
सोने ते भुगताई है
सोनू भी ना तो सोनू भी भुगता है
क्या
वो भी मैं भुगता आया मैं तो जानू दे नाल हम सहे नहीं गए
हां जाना हुन मकान पेड़े
मैं तो नहीं दी भुगता आया नहीं दी भुगता आई क्या पता नहीं क्यों तो दादा भुगता आए चाहे पहले ने मेरा पुत्र भुगता आया मैं क्या अच्छा यार भुगता आया मैं तो जिले तेरे को बाल्टी मंगी मी मैं जिले तेरे को बाल्टी मंगी मी उमरे मैं सीधा उन्हें तो गया मैं डिठा भी मैं करी शादी चलती पी है ना उठा गया था शादी चलती पी
आया
उठाए
भेड़ गए
वाला आया इधर ही नासिर ने चाहता नहीं था ये कोई नासिर का बर्ता नहीं नासिर का बर्ता ना
एक आया बर्ता ना
ये तो मैंने साफ की था मैं साफ करने जा जो मेरे नासिर का ब्याह बर्ता नहीं है मैं भूल आया चाहूंगा
बिया ले से हाल
स्कूल में करना छुट्टी थी गई
है
कितनी छुट्टियां मिलियां बहन वाला पर्चे कढाने ने इम्तिहान कढाने तेरे
पर्चे दायर पर्चे हाल चिरे पर
अच्छा वाला कितनी हुए एक पर्चा दे सुबह दे छुट्टी पहले तो ही नहीं होने
हां हुन कह ना एक ने पर्चा वाला तैयारी वाला पर्चा वाला तैयारी
यार ना दे
बिया चुप पे फिट है
चौथा बच्चा ही नहीं थोड़ा बच्चा पे ज्यादा बच्चा पे
मकान जगह वाला बच्चा पे
अच्छा खाली बच्चा वाला है
हां
ठीक है बचैया मैं आप लाडो नाल टुरदा फिरदा आजड़ी बनना बकरियां छेड़े था
मार पवे के जरा कारीगर रे लाडो
बकरियां छेड़ी वगैरह है लाडो दा काम ही होए बकरियां छेड़ा या काम ही कहीं लाडो दा